Coming up to 11:14 a.m. right here on Traxx Momentum with me, Kong Yu. How are you doing? It's a Tuesday. It's also 21st April 2015, about to kickstart today's special forum on environmental sustainability, and it is going to be centered on sustainability when it comes to running businesses, yeah? So first of all, I'd like to introduce into the studio right now and onto the program my three special guests for today. First up, of course, the lady in the house today, Yasmin Rasyid, who's the founder and president of Ecoknights. Welcome back, Yasmin.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, welcome. It's always good to see you. And today we are talking about environmental sustainability when it comes to businesses, how businesses handle that concept. Lots of balancing to do, lots of different things to weigh and put together. So with that, I'd like to introduce into the forum right now my two other guests, Anthony Wong, who's the managing director of Frangipani, Langkawi Spa and Resorts, as well as Philip Ling, who is the principal of sustainability at Digi Communications. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, it's good to have everyone for this exciting interview today. Why don't we kick things off with a little bit of explanation from Yasmin. Tell us a bit about, the concept of sustainability is not too new, but share with us the key concepts of that, as well as, in particular, how businesses are to adopt this concept of sustainability, because we always associate it more with environmentalists, people like Ecoknights, and so on and so forth. Yasmin.
A little bit of background on how we started with this forum. Late last year, we realized, of course, we've always realized this, that there is a growing population of entrepreneurs, startups, and I think to date about more than 900,000 SMEs in this country. And the country is going very aggressively in addressing also impact on climate change and so forth. So what has happened is we felt that it was very important and very pertinent that we look at how we can engage businesses to understand, adopt, and implement sustainability in their everyday businesses. And so we have a campaign called Sustainability in Business, which we just launched this year. And to kick off the campaign is this forum called Corporate Leadership, the Battle of the Ideas for Sustainability, which we kindly have, and we the support of Philip Ling and Anthony Wong.
Okay, great stuff. So this is the first year that you're having a campaign that in particular deals with this.
Yes.
How corporations and businesses and organizations actually deal with the idea of sustainability, yeah?
Yes. Also because last year we also saw the effort of the Ministry of Natural Resources in their My Carbon program to actually engage more companies to be more responsible in terms of what their carbon footprint is daily or yearly in running their businesses. So we hope to actually support the government initiative in this as well. I think it's the duly responsibility of companies to know what their impact is on the environment and to know how to reduce that impact.
Okay, well, great stuff, yeah. And speaking of which, of course, World Earth Day is tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yes.
22nd April. And so the forum that Yasmin was referring to actually happens tomorrow, right? And it's handled by Ecoknights. We'll have details about that before we wrap the interview, yeah? But first up, of course, speaking right now also to Anthony Wong, who's the MD of Frangipani Langkawi Spa and Resorts Hotel, and Philip Ling, who is the principal of sustainability at Digi Communications, yeah? Gentlemen, welcome and thank you so much, right, for joining me in this special forum with Yasmin. Let's talk about how you approach your own ideology behind yourselves and as well as the corporations that you represent, yeah? Philip, tell us a bit about sustainability. This is the first time I'm hearing of Digi Telecommunications having a sustainability unit or department, so to speak, or at least somebody who is in charge of looking at it. Tell us more about how your company views the issue.
Well, for Digi, we've been actually doing sustainability for a number of years. Of course, previously we were named corporate responsibility. One of the things is that there's a lot of products and services that's offering by business, and the growth of that demand is exponential. Because of the growth of the demand that's exponential, it's important that when we try to balance that demand and supply, sustainability is actually good business sense. Actually makes a lot of sense that you do a sustainable business. One of the things we always say that you can always do good while you're doing great. You see, you do great in your business, there's no harm that you use sustainability as a strategy, and you do good for the environment too.
Okay. Yeah. Well, how about from your side, Anthony? Tell us.
I started Frangipani as a green hotel 10 years back, but my history goes much longer. I started in the inbound tourism industry in Malaysia called Asia Overland close to 40 years ago, and we started Taman Negara Homestay. So we had an opportunity to manage this hotel 10 years back, and I told all of them, I'm going to make this the greenest hotel in Malaysia, if not the world later on. Now, people don't understand green and sustainability. I've been talking about this, as I say, close to 40 years, but then I realized that the only way to move people is to show them that it is more profitable. So we developed a measuring tool, how to save on energy, water, food, resources. So the only way to reach out to the public and to the business people is show them over 200 ways to save.
Wow. Okay, and you said that the initiatives basically started with the different sort of, like hotel spas that you were part of. And that's been ongoing for 10 years.
Yes.
Right? And so you actually have some data and facts and figures, right?
Yes.
And that's I guess where the strength is, isn't it? In that we can talk about sustainability, it's all conceptual and everything, but when we see numbers, especially when it comes to businesses.
Yes.
Okay, so I can't wait to hear from you more about that. But first, maybe we go for a little bit of a break. And before that, it's interesting as well that because where Anthony comes from, it's quite a natural extension of his work, isn't it, Yasmin? You talk about being involved in the hotel and spa business, especially on islands like Langkawi, and also you mentioned Taman Negara. Natural concepts to tie in with awareness and environment, because if you don't have these places, if you don't preserve the beauty of these places, serenity of these places, etc., then obviously you've got nothing to market, nothing to sell.
Yeah.
You've got no business.
Yeah. The environment is impacted. I think everyone's business is affected, whether it's water or energy or waste.
Right. I am curious to hear from Philip before we go for a break. How does it tie in with telecommunications?
Well, for telecommunications, our biggest carbon footprint is actually energy. We use a lot of electricity, petrol, diesel, and to be able to manage our carbon footprint, again, it's a cost benefit to us, but it's also a way to sustain your business. More and more down with more demands for 4G, 3G, the demand for energy exponential. How do you manage that? That's where sustainability comes in.
Okay. Well, more from Philip as well as Anthony and, of course, Yasmin on this special forum on environmental sustainability when it comes to businesses. So much more information to come. Make sure to stay tuned. Keep it right here on Traxx Momentum. Good morning. Traxx Momentum calling you with you on a special interview forum right now that's taking place on the idea of environmental sustainability with regards to different businesses and how different businesses need to run and operate. Yeah, of course, the person who is leading the forum that is taking place live tomorrow is Yasmin Rasyid, who is the founder and president of Ecoknights, who are the organizers of the actual off-air forum, shall we say, the one that's happening tomorrow. That's actually taking place. Might as well run through some details.
Yeah, it will take place at White Box Publica. Publica is located near Solaris, Moncara, and forum starts at 9 o'clock is when we open for registration, and 9:30 is when the speakers will start their session, and will end promptly at 1 o'clock.
Nice.
So we have been getting some last-minute registration today. For those who are unable to do so, I highly recommend you to just walk in.
Okay.
Not to miss the opportunity to meet the speakers.
That's great. That's happening 9:30 a.m. tomorrow. Half-day forum at the White Box Publica. Yeah? Now, speaking of that, it is in conjunction with World Earth Day, as well as the initiative by Ecoknights this year, which is looking at, in a way, corporate sustainability. World Earth Day, what's the theme this year?
I am not sure. Okay. I'm sorry about that.
All right.
But I think it's about consumption for this whole year. I briefly read through it, and it's how to educate. I mean, we're all guilty of this. We consume a little bit too much, and so how do you address sustainable consumption among the consumers today?
Right. And speaking of consumption, I mean, you talk about businesses. Businesses all operate with the goal of actually, making a profit, that's for sure. But these days, I mean, we're chatting with my two gentlemen guests for today, Anthony Wong and Philip Lim, over the break. Philip, of course, is the principal of sustainability at Digi Telecoms, and we were talking about how shareholders, owners, business owners, and even just the public and your own customers demand more these days, isn't it? More answers and more, details on issues, including issues of sustainability. And we talked about communications, and you were telling us before the break, Philip, when it comes to that, the main key thing to note of is actually energy consumption.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And how do you measure? How do you do that? Is it based on your customer base? How do you approach the issue?
Yep. Two things. One is that yes, we do measure our carbon footprint. So we measure it. There's a tool called a greenhouse gas protocol. You measure your energy, your electricity, your diesels, your travel, and all those. So by doing that, we've been able to set a baseline on where we started in 2008 and where we want to achieve our targets by 2020. So again, it looks at energy efficiency. That's the goal for Digi. So when we achieve energy efficiency on two fronts. One is that if you're a Digi customer, that means you're using an internet service or data service that's greener. Right. Although you're increasing your consumption, you're downloading more and all those, but then you're getting a back-end network that's more efficient in terms of energy, and that creates less carbon footprint for the environment. On the other end, when we are providing customer services, example, you can download music right now, right? So if you think of it, 10 years ago, if you want to buy a music, you need to buy a plastic CD wrapped in a plastic case, and then they give you in a plastic bag.
Right.
See? So now we are dematerializing all those things for you to get immediate music online.
Which of course raises the issue of things like copyright and all that, but that's a different, we'll save it for a different forum. But it's interesting though, I mean, we talk about, even communications and the fact that, so many of us are relying on the handphone, you can't put it away, and communications, it's something that I think if we just take a broader perspective even, it's important.
Yes.
I mean, we're not going to retract back and, not use our phones and all that. It just does not make sense for communication purposes, isn't it? We've grown, we've developed, and we are, relying on things like mobile phones and mobile communications. It is a concept that is interesting in terms of sustainability. Of course, on behalf of Digi, measuring a carbon footprint is very important, and that is something that can be done, and you guys are doing it. So good stuff on that. For us consumers, how do we be more aware of, what we consume? And I think that will tie in with what we're talking about, World Earth Day 2015. One thing that comes to mind, I mean, somebody on my Facebook who is quite a champion in, how shall we say, I wouldn't say sustainability, but in wastage. He's very concerned about wastage. This one journalist reporter that I know, and he's very against people upgrading their gadgets every year. Would you say that sustainability, when it comes to this, is more on, being aware of hardware wastage, more so than, in a way, software or the communications aspect itself? What's your opinion, Philip?
Well, there's two things that we're looking at. One, of course, we are looking at electronic waste. So again, waste either from the gadgets up all the way to the equipments on the network. How do you retire an equipment or even recycle it to the best way that's possible? But again, with more gadgets, one of the things, research has found is that through communications, there's a lot of shared reduced climate impact. Example, if I can do FaceTime with you, you don't have to drive all the way to somewhere Sentul to meet your friend. See, so that reduces another part of your carbon footprint from petrol and diesel and traveling. So in a way, a lot of communication solutions today are actually helping reduce in other industries a lot of carbon footprint.
How do we measure it against the consumption of, say, like electricity or battery? Because that's what we need to power our mobile phones or computers and whatnot. Yes.
Again, so at that back end is where we are attacking it. We've got renewable energy, we've got solars and all those. So those are options for us to reduce the electricity usage when we power up the network to send it directly to the device.
Something I think for all of us to think about, not just on a corporate level like Digi is doing, but also on a case-to-case basis. Of course, Yasmin is, quite into making things sort of relevant to the everyday person and all that.
Yeah, we have to. I think with this growing, we're all developing very, very fast, and everyone's into creating businesses as well. So especially SMEs and startups, I think it's even easier for them to look at sustainability when they've just about to start and they're developing a foundation. So simple things like financial accounting, operations, recycling, all that. Actually, collectively, if 900,000 SMEs a day decide to throw a plastic bag, That's 900,000 plastic bags, and that was because they're not aware of the impact. So we hope we can, over the years, penetrate more companies and do these awareness sharing sessions with them.
Right, and I guess that's the best way to get started off in the best way possible, isn't it?
Yeah.
To have the correct systems in place, etc. And speaking of that, one of the key person, in fact, as I'm finding out in my conversation with my forum, my panelists today, Anthony Wong, of course, Managing Director of Frangipani Langkawi Spa and Resort Hotel, would say that you are a pioneer in actually this whole concept of incorporating sustainability into the business model right from the start and the systems as well.
It was tough because I wanted to, being an environmentalist for the last 40 years, I support Malay Nature Society, WWF, and Ecoknights, because you have to work with others and partner. And when this opportunity came out to manage this hotel 10 years ago, I advertised in the papers, if anybody can give me 25 ways to save in 2005, I'll pay you a consultant fee. Because I knew 25 ways. 3 people from doctorate in environment came back, couldn't tell me.
Right.
Today we are actually 240 ways, and we give it away to universities who want to learn about how to save. And in fact, buildings, I'm very glad that Malaysia has started the GBI, Green Building Index, by architects and engineers. And they started it in, I believe, 2008, 7-8. Now, buildings are about 40% carbon footprint, and hotels are probably 50% because they use a lot of energy in terms of air conditioning, cold room, refrigerator in every room.
To make everybody as comfortable as possible.
That's right. When you want to go on holiday, you want to relax and have all the comfort.
Right.
Now, because of that, and the tourism industry is probably one of the world's largest industry. 1 in 11, 1 in 12 work in tourism directly or indirectly. Now, this is the biggest opportunity. If they can reduce not only energy. Energy is 30% of a hotel consumption, and that's the biggest cost after labor costs. So, there are ways to save. And of course, this year World Day is about consumption. So consumption is, you can grow a lot of food on site. You can reduce your food mileage by growing a lot of your food organically, and you can actually harvest rainwater. We spend 250,000 in rainwater containers. Payback 5 years.
Right.
Who would spend 250,000 on rainwater tank? But you get it back and you save. So, and food grown on site, we can turn our roads into food walkway, and we can do vertical farm. People talk about vertical garden. Why can't we have vertical farm? And all organic stuff are recyclable. Organic can be compost, and you can grow food. And when we talk about rearing fish, we got what you call agroponic, which is growing food from the waste of the fish, and the fish is feeding from the plants growing in the garden.
Right.
So you have a complete system and using sunlight to grow the plants.
Okay.
So there are many ways of saving. So now I believe if people know how, in fact, last week I was coming down from flight from Langkawi, and this chap was walking and said, "Hey boss, you remember me? I was your security guard 6 years ago. I'm now running a garment factory.
Wow.
I save 15,000 a month because you taught me how to save on energy and water. Thank you very much." Now these are the things you feel so comfortable. You can share this with others, and people can benefit from the business. So the key to businesses is they must know how to save.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I mean, I wanted to interject you earlier, but no, I wanted to hear a lot more of your explanation. But one thing that occurred to me is that isn't it kind of ironic that we talk about hospitality, we talk about tourism, and even to some extent, of course, telecommunications also, that it's supposed to provide extra comfort to humans. I mean, we go away for a holiday, as I said, and we want to be extra comfortable, a little bit more than we were if we were at home, isn't it? And that's where actually extra energy comes from.
Yep.
So on one hand, it's like you talk about tourism, we are there to celebrate the nature, whatever that area has specific to that, but yet we're also consuming more. So it does seem like it's not just on the behalf of the operator and the owners of these resorts, hotels and whatnot, but it's also on awareness of the people who visit.
Yep. The people who consume too much.
People who consume too much, yeah, exactly. I am curious, Philip, about, you gave us some examples of how hotels, for example, businesses which are in related to hospitality and whatnot can actually run in waste or use waste to minimize wastage, to recycle, etc., etc. Tell us, do you have any numbers that you can share with us?
Yes. In terms of energy, we save 30%. In terms of water, we save 40%. Yeah. In terms of food, we probably save about 3% because a lot of food you can't really do.
You can't really cut it. Yeah.
But what we do is every day at 10:30 we take any of our guests to show them how to save. Because say we have unit aircon. Now normally the compressor is outside. Under the hot sun it heats up more energy. So we show them you grow a little tree to shade the compressor and you actually use less energy in your room. Yeah? To save money. Or you have your balcony. We grow trees over it, nice colorful trees, but actually it cools down the room. Right. So there are many things like, if you're not in the room, turn off the your fridge if you have no food in the fridge. So there are many ways actually to save, little ways. And in our kitchen, we have 8 separation bin. People talk about 3, we have 8. But when I separate waste, paper, glass, plastic, rice, I feed it to the chicken and ducks. Bread, I feed it to the fish. Oil, we actually separate them, and you can actually do lighting with it. So if you do it from the beginning, from the source, it's actually money. So when people say, oh wow, I can do this at home. So I believe one of our responsibility is also to share what we learn with all the rest. And the more people can learn and understand that being green actually is saving money, people will go green.
Right, and it is with the numbers that you've seen, collected over how many years on average?
We build up our knowledge now is close to 10 years. But continuously we are experimenting new ways to save. And of course with the technology, YouTube and the internet, you actually learn from out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but we also try to give it out to universities, so they are the capacity builders. And I think that's how our responsibility to share this with all the rest.
Well, good stuff. Yeah. And speaking of YouTube, internet, and of course telecommunications, Philip, you had something to add?
Yeah, I want to interject. I mean, you may have that impression that Anthony can do it because Frangipani, you're staying next to the beach. You got nature surrounding you.
You got nice wind.
I'm staying here in the city. How it's not relevant for you, but it's not. A lot of things that Anthony was saying is actually things that we are doing also in the city. Example, Digi, we've got rainwater harvesting. Yes. The same as Frangipani. We separate our sewage. We clean our sewage before it goes out. We've got a green wall that reduces the heat, just like how it says they've reduced it. Right. The only thing we haven't done is probably we haven't grown our own food. But I want to bring out that a lot of things that there was relevant actually in places like Langkawi. It's actually relevant in places like Klang Valley. You can do it right immediately.
Yeah. I maybe like to add that I think maybe, like you're right, Philip, maybe people will think, it's easy for them to do it because they either have the finances to do it or it's a directive. But I think when companies start doing this, the kickback would be channeling this, what they do as information to the consumers. And the consumers are probably, normal people on the street who want to try but not necessarily have the confidence to try or don't know how to go about it. So we hope, like through this forum, that there's no harm asking the speakers how to go about it and how to get it done. And most importantly is sharing this knowledge on sustainability, like rainwater harvesting. I remember I was telling a lot of people during lectures that in the past, whenever it rains, my grandmother would be shouting that we all have to bring a bucket out to save rainwater. My grandmother is illiterate from China and has no knowledge about sustainability, but somehow it's tuned inside her not to waste, not to throw.
Right.
And I think Malaysians have lost that along the way.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that, and you mentioned grandmother, but even like my own parents, for example, I mean, they came from a different generation, and they were taught never to waste. My father especially, it's very... he still holds on to the principle really well. I've learned that from him also, especially when it comes to ordering food and, not going like too crazy and waste, and then having to throw so much of it away. Yeah. Speaking to my panelists today on the issue of environmental sustainability, we'll have one more segment. Make sure you stay tuned for advice on how you can get on board as well and maybe implement a little bit of the attempts yourself, on sustainability. We'll be right back on Traxx Momentum. Welcome back to Traxx Momentum. It's Kong Yu with you, and joined by my three special guests today: Yasmin, Rasyid, founder and president of Ecoknights; Anthony Wong, the MD of Frangipani, Langkawi Spa Resort Hotel, and more; as well as Philip Ling, principal of sustainability at Digi Telecommunications, on the issue of environmental sustainability and what we can do. Lots of examples, many tie-ins, and at the end of the day, it's all about how everyone takes responsibility, isn't it? With this whole idea of sustainability, as well as being a stewardship and all that kind of stuff. What do you think is the best way to get a head start from your different perspectives? I mean, let's begin with Yasmin. I know personally you already have things like decomposting that you do at home. You've got a rainwater harvesting system running at home. It's how do you get started? I think when you mentioned in a previous segment, one of the things I think that holds people back is that they don't want to ruin their system, or they don't want to risk not having that, how shall we say, that continued comfort. We talk about having water to wash with, even things like decomposting, about troubling neighbors and so on and so forth with the smell of the compost. What's your advice?
Well, I guess the first step is always to seek for the knowledge from the right people. Like, I didn't start composting right away until I signed up for a free workshop. I sat them, and they were very helpful in building my confidence that I will not end up with a compost heap that's full of maggots. And number two, I think once you set your mind you want to do it, I think that's when the power of innovation comes, because every household is run and managed differently. So if you think this system works in my friend's house and it should work exactly the same, I think we have to be a bit more open-minded. And plus, being sustainable at home, adopting these kind of technologies is a very personalized approach. Like for me, rainwater harvesting, I mean, I moved in the house. We didn't renovate that system in first. It came much later. So we did a lot of improvisation. And lastly is knowing what you're doing. I mean, we are all masters of our own homes. Expecting to put a bin there and having a miracle work out of it is not going to happen. You need to open your composting bin and check out, because what you compost is directly from what you throw away as food waste.
Right.
So if you're not aware of what you're throwing out, then your compost bin heap might not work well. So some people when come to me and say, "Hey, Yasmin, this is not working well," I said, do you ever check it? And they say no. I said, well, you need to care, lah. You need to care for what you're doing.
And you need to take care, and you need to be thorough.
Yes.
You need to take the energy and time to go through things like that. If not, I mean, what's the point, isn't it?
That has changed me a lot, actually. I used to be the kind of woman who I'll never know how to check my minyak hitam. I'll never know where to put the water from a Viper. But, I'm becoming more in tune with my car now, because I'm more in tune with other things. So it's kind of like when you drive a car, you need to know how the car works.
Right.
Or else when it dies, what you know is wrong.
Probably the key word is being in tune and being aware and present in your everyday actions, isn't it?
Yes.
Then only, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Anthony, then only issues like this or even depending on the scale, I mean, it could be something that comes from a personal boss perspective, you being the MD, this is how I want to run my businesses, because that's what you do. Even down to Philip, isn't it? This is how Digi or any other, organization that's similar wants to run its business. You must want to do it. You must have the desire to, in a way, change and to adopt these principles. So how best to do it? From your perspective as a hotelier?
As a hotelier and as a tour operator and a responsible Malaysian citizen, I believe we have to start them young. after 40 years of preaching sustainability, it's very tiring.
Can imagine.
Yeah. Right. So 24 years ago, I started a camp in Gomak called the Jungle Lodge Alang Sedayu. We now made a send from there. But the idea is to make little children fall in love with nature. And we run children's camp. And once they fall in love with nature, they will actually look after nature. So I believe we need to start them from young. It's very hard to convince them when they are already in grey and, they just couldn't be bothered. It's not my duty. They always say it's a government's duty. And I feel this is very wrong in the general Malaysian public. It is all our responsibility to behave, properly. So now in the hotel business, what I'm trying to do is I get into hotel school. And because they are the capacity builders, and so that to put it into the DNA, because I have approached internationally, some of the older general managers say, well, to save energy, composting, the science of reduction is not our duty. It's the duty of engineers and architects. I say, no, that's where you're wrong. It has to be multidiscipline. So the new schools are teaching a little bit more multidiscipline and a little bit more understand, because it's a bit complicated when you want to teach hospitality with passive architecture, with engineering, chemistry, biology. But today you have to approach it from the scientific way and prove why it should be done this way and give explanation. Because Gen Y wants to ask why? Why should we do this? Why should we do that? So I believe if you tell them why and give them the solution, they will follow it. Yeah.
So in your opinion, definitely, yeah? I mean, when you apply all these concepts, the bottom line also increases.
Yes.
Right? So that's how you would go about. That is the most important thing for all businesses, bottom line.
That's right.
And in your experience, your 40 years of experience, 100%, you've seen that it does increase the bottom line.
It does increase. I didn't really realize it until managing Frangipani, that because you are measuring everything and continuously you set target. Every year I set a target of 10% on water, 5% of energy. So everyone must reach that target. So every year we do renovation. Whenever we renovate, we increase its sustainability in terms of environment. So, but you need to build a team. You cannot do it by yourself. So you need to have a team, and you recruit people with a little bit more passion in environment. So it's more of getting people who are very much environment conscious, sustainability, then convert them to hoteliers.
Right.
It's very hard to convert hoteliers to be green.
Right.
Yeah, but it's easier to convert believers of sustainability into the hospitality business.
Oh, interesting thought. The easiest way to do it is to walk up to any business person and say, yeah, by following all these concepts, provided, of course, the business is for real and it's supposed to last a certain minimum period of time, your bottom line will increase.
Yes.
That's what you can confidently say, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
How about Philip? I mean, how do you apply that? How have you applied this within Digi, and how has Digi applied it? And how would you convince other, say, fellow telcos, other similar organizations, businesses to adopt?
I think that's a perception that green is a premium service. Okay, it's a nice to have. It's not a need to have. If I invest in it, it will eat into my bottom line. But I think for Digi, we've showcased that from since 2008, since we've gone on this journey, we are still a successful business. We are growing our bottom line, and one reason is because we've put in a lot of sustainability initiatives, and a lot of sustainability initiatives are actually linked to innovation. And it's always good that you're a first mover in innovation, and you test out. Yes, some things may take longer for you to reap the benefits. So in our business model, there's a model called a total cost of operations. So we might invest in the solar technology that looks expensive now, but in the long run, I will assure you that it will actually give you more returns. Example, same like a household. Today if I'm telling you throw away your legacy aircon and get this new inverter, it will reduce your usage within 1 year. You may have to fork up additional now, but looking at it 1 year later, you're actually making a lot of savings. So if it works for that, so again, it's giving people the motivation, the goal, and why to do it.
Okay. Well, good stuff, yeah. Just a quick question, because, it's just working on my mind right now. Would you say that the way Apple is going, is that sustainable? Are they causing more harm than good, or vice versa? What's your opinion?
Well, for us, we look at, yes, devices is one example, a mobile device. It emits around 0.2% of your total carbon. The main carbon, 99% comes from the network. The towers, the data centers and all those.
Okay.
Again, so if you're looking at Apple just from the front view, that's one thing. But looking at the back-end systems, the internet system, how do you make it more efficient?
Right.
I think that's where you're looking at it.
That should be the way, yeah. Well, interesting thoughts. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on. Anthony Wong, Managing Director of Frangipani, Langkawi, Spa and Resort Hotel and more, as well as you just heard from Philip Ling, Principal of Sustainability at Digi Telecoms, and the lady in the house, Yasmin Rasyid. Okay, let's quickly recap in 30 seconds the forum that's happening tomorrow.
It's happening tomorrow at White Box Publica from 9:30 a.m. right up to 1 p.m. If you're unable to register, you can register at ecoknights.org.my. If you're unable to do so, or it's last minute, you can easily just walk into the White Box at Publica and get yourself a seat. We do still have some seats available for the public.
Okay, thank you very much, Yasmin. Thank you, Anthony, and also Philip for joining me on Traxx Momentum. Stay tuned. We've got the news updates coming up at noon. After that, hang around with me all the way till 2 p.m. today on Traxx. Good morning.